All right. Welcome to another episode of geekoutdoors.com. I'm making sure this stream works, if it's actually on. All right, the stream is now live. Let me make sure it's actually working. So,
Works. If it
yep, it works. You know, sometimes if you are doing live, even though you've done this so many times, sometimes things just don't work. So, it's always good to check. So let me do one more thing. Let's pop this out. Let's put this on top in case we need it. All right. So let's do one last check. All right. Everything looks good there. So as you could probably tell by the title, we got some good geeky news as always. Today we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Labo, as you can see here, Google's Fuscia OS, and also Barcelona dumping Windows in favor of Linux. So every now and then I'm going to go ahead and check the live chat if anybody does come on. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and talk about the awesome news this week. So one piece of news that completely caught, I think, a lot of people off guard is Nintendo announcing their new Labo experiment. And what Labo is basically cardboard for the Nintendo Switch. And it is really, really sweet. And so I'm going to show the trailer. I'll probably get a copyright strike because Nintendo doesn't like you playing their stuff. But you kind of got to see it. It's pretty sweet. And so the whole concept of this is very similar to what Google Cardboard is. As you can see here, Nintendo produces these actual cardboard layouts, and they're all completely made already. And all you do is you just, basically break it out of the design that it already has. You fold it up, as you can see there, and it already looks cool to me to begin with. But the really cool thing is it integrates with your Nintendo Switch, and it actually works with the games that they've actually produced for it. And that is the crazy thing. Now, this is something that Nintendo has kind of already done before. If you think about Amiibos, where it takes a physical element and then it works with the Nintendo systems. And obviously Nintendo and all other game manufacturers have had physical accessories for a long time. But I think beyond any other company in the gaming industry, when it comes to accessories, I don't think anybody does it quite as well as Nintendo, because Nintendo does things in ways that you do not expect. And this is really, really cool. I'm like it's kind of genius, because in a lot of ways, Nintendo is able to make a ton of money off of its accessories, which is already a huge market for Nintendo. But here they're able to do it in a, I wouldn't even say cheap way, but relatively cheap, at least for Nintendo, because the cost to produce this is going to be millions and millions of times cheaper than if Nintendo actually had to produce physical electronic products for these accessories. And at the same time, since it is cardboard based, Nintendo can easily produce pretty much countless accessories really quickly. They just design it in a computer, print out the cardboards, and there you go. And obviously actually have the games that work for it. And what I like about this concept, besides the fact that from a business point of view, it's extremely cost effective and it's very scalable, it's just that it has a, I would say, own sense of personality for the person as well, because of the fact that, as you probably saw by the brief intro there, people could actually customize it. They could color it the way they want, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to mix and match these cardboard accessories as well. And so in a lot of ways, your experience could be extremely unique. And so I'm pretty sure Nintendo's thinking of ways to make the experience even more unique for users. Okay, and Nintendo's really good about doing the whole sharing thing. Now, here's another point of, you know, like monetary or business genius. This isn't going to be cheap for a piece of cardboard. $70, okay? And Nintendo is a brand very similar to Apple. I really feel Apple's going to buy Nintendo, and I've said that before, because these companies are so similar. And so here, because it is Nintendo, they could charge you $70 to $80 for a cardboard, you know, and people will pay for it. And the pre-release for it, it'll be out on April 20th, 2018. You can pre-order it on outlets such as Best Buy and Amazon, Walmart, GameStop, basically some of the biggest companies in the world. And wow, this is really cool. And they're going to make a ton of money. I'm pretty sure this is going to be completely sold out. Hey, good morning, George. Happy New Year. Thank you for joining, George. Wow, I'm super impressed by this. I did not expect this. And Nintendo is also able to quickly, continually capitalize on the success of the Nintendo Switch, you know, which I kind of alluded to earlier because of scalability. Because it is cardboard and not an expensive piece of hardware, wow, it's almost limitless. This is one of the coolest ones that I've seen. It's a, I don't know, is that VR? No, it's a head tracking, well, with the cardboard that you could shoot with it. And Nintendo has had accessories like that before. It was a long time ago. I think it was right before the Nintendo Virtual 3D board. There was a accessories where instead of using your light gun, you would have these glasses, and you would just shoot people with it just by moving your head. And I don't remember if that was an official Nintendo accessories or if it was a third-party accessory. I think it was a third-party accessory. And they used that instead of using your light gun, and it wasn't really popular because it didn't work very well back then, but it looks like they're doing something similar right here, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work way better because it's going to use obviously modern technologies and the Joy-Cons to probably track where you're shooting, okay? And then you could probably do like this, or I don't know, it just looks cool. And check this out. Oh man, I'm just kind of speechless in a way that they would do this. Let me see what you get with these kits. I think that these kits are, at least for now, they're only made specifically for that game. So it looks like there's 5 different, they call them Toy-Con projects. RC cars, fishing rod, house, motorbike, piano. But I really think, as I mentioned earlier, that they might be able to do cross-platform Toy-Con, whatever these call these Labo devices, and then to have them work with multiple games. So I think they're going to allow a lot of flexibility, and of course the whole sharing thing that I talked about. Now, out of all these different games, the first one that I saw that I really enjoyed, as I showed you, was the whole backpack one. I'm really curious how that worked. And then another one that I definitely want to try is this fishing rod, and so that one looks really cool. I don't know about the motorbike, but the fishing rod, I would definitely get into that. So let's see what you get here in this, how much this $70 pack. So you get the cardboard sheet, get extra sheets, stickers, sponge, string, grommet, rubber band. Sweet. And much like Google's cardboard, you know, these are not like the cheap cardboard. These are more of the higher grade cardboard. So I could definitely see that it would cost more, but definitely not $70, because for that price you could get a lot of stuff. Okay, so what else is there on here? Not much else. Wow. So I have been saying this for a while now, ever since the Nintendo Switch was announced. With me and my brothers have done many shows on it. Definitely gonna get a Nintendo Switch. Both my brothers, well, one of my brothers, he has the Nintendo. I think both my brothers have the Nintendo Switch, and you know, we did do a previous episode on this where we all played it and together, and I was really impressed. And now with this, you can imagine like party games and stuff with your family or friends. This would definitely be a winner. And since it is cardboard, it's going to be extremely lightweight. So, So George is saying $70 for a piece of cupboard. What is in there? Star Trek collectibles. Sammy S, good morning, Sammy S. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, you know, George, as I just mentioned earlier, and you know, you saw what was in there. And I started that at the beginning where I says Nintendo is very similar to Apple, you know, and I say this over and over. Your brand for any business or any person actually, you know, because now even individuals who are online, they have to have a brand as well. So your brand marketing is the most powerful thing, period, for the long term. Because when you have a powerful brand like Nintendo and Apple, you could basically produce anything and people will pay for it. And we've seen that time and time and time again, where as long as they see the brand, even if the company makes a lot of mistakes, you know, any company makes mistakes, but when big companies like Apple, Nintendo makes mistakes, everybody knows. But since they're such a big and trusted brand, people eventually forget about it. You know, I mean, even if they're trying to sue them, like with Apple, it's just amazing to me. And that's something that I think, to me, it's very important to have a very powerful brand. It does take a long time to build, but once you build it, you could sell stuff like this. Their profit margins are probably extremely crazy. Oh man. And so I am excited for this, but you know, I keep talking about it. So you know, once I do get a Nintendo Switch, I will be able to talk about this further. And if Nintendo keeps doing stuff like this, which they will, it's going to be hard for, I think, like Microsoft and Sony to, I wouldn't say catch up, because they got tons of money and have a huge user base, to, I would say, out-innovate them in these areas. Okay, because the Nintendo Switch is probably definitely what the Nintendo wanted to do with the Nintendo Wii U, for sure. This is actually what they wanted. But now they're getting that success and they're taking advantage of it. Because if I think about like the Sony and Microsoft front, there really isn't anything exciting going on. I mean, the last time there was something exciting was obviously the Microsoft Xbox One X and VR, virtual reality, which is really not even a thing anymore, at least for now. I think the industry is more focused on augmented reality first before getting back into the whole VR space. That still has a lot of room to grow. Wow. And so anyway, the Nintendo Labo, awesome piece of hardware along with the software that is going to be working on it. And I think once again, this really sets Nintendo apart. It gives them a huge, you know, business advantage because their other competitors don't have anything like this. And even if their competitors do create other things similar to this, people are still going to think about Nintendo first as the one who creates this. And so I'm interested really to see where this goes, because if it is as successful as I'm pretty sure it will be, and as Nintendo wants it to be, well, Nintendo could probably create an entire new industry based upon cardboard accessories and products. And Nintendo, being a very smart company, they're probably definitely going to get, you know, a trademark or rights or something like that to this, or patents, where other companies cannot copy them, okay, especially their competitors. So yeah, exciting piece of stuff. And so let's move on to the next piece of news, which I think is very exciting as well. Honestly, all the news today, this is really good news. I mean, I feel like this week's got some really cool news when it comes to the technology front. So another piece of news here is Google's Fuscia OS on the Pixelbook. Ars Technica did a really cool, not first look, because they have done a first look before, but an updated look on the Fuscia OS. So I'm going to play this here. And what this is it's actually an open source project that Google, and I'll go into that a little bit further. It's on GitHub, and this actually showed up back in 2016. And this is something Google has wanted to do for a long time. And I'm going to get into what my thoughts are on why they are doing it. But basically, it's going to be a combination of Android and Chrome OS. And this is something that I've talked about in many episodes, where the whole industry as a whole for operating systems is going. And this is why I really feel Linux is definitely going to head this way. And this is something Ubuntu tried to do with a long time ago, whenever they tried to have their Ubuntu, that one OS, one OS to rule them all. And I think I even talked about this the last live episode, where the future of all operating systems, and this is nothing new, but one operating system that'll work well on any type of device. And Google, Apple, all of them have tried this before. Every single operating system maker has tried it before. But I think now you have to, because having your operating system segmented by mobile to desktop to embedded systems and all that stuff, it's just really segments your market. It fragments it even further. Okay, and obviously Android, if you think about its history, we have run Android on bigger devices, okay, on a TV, for example. And then you would put that same operating system on your phone, and obviously it will resize itself to that particular device. But it never really worked quite well, because whenever it was on a bigger device, even though Google tried to make it a way that it's designed for those devices, it just never quite worked well. The first attempt that I can remember is Google Honeycomb, so that it could work on both tablets. At the time, tablets were new, and so everybody's trying to get into that market to compete with Apple. And Honeycomb, it worked okay on a tablet, but it wasn't this seamless experience. But now with something like Fuscia OS, it is going to be a seamless experience, or more seamless. And then if you look at other operating systems, like Apple's Mac OS and iOS, if you look at it, they've been trying to keep the theme and consistency closer. Because if you look at Google's Mac OS over the years, it's become more similar to iOS, than a desktop operating system, in my opinion. Okay? And then if you remember with Microsoft Windows, specifically with Windows 10, and whenever their Windows OS was semi-popular, I guess, they had the very similar design theme. So then you could even dock your mobile device on a desktop, and you would get basically a stripped down version of Windows OS. Okay? But this is where the whole industry is going, and I think this would be awesome, especially for Linux users, because then, you only have to download one distro. And who knows, Ubuntu might go back to this. They might go back and try this again, because out of all the Linux vendors, they have the most resources, i.e. money, to actually pursue this further. But going back to the Fuscia OS, why this is important is for a lot of things, okay? Besides the technical part of it and not fragmenting your user base and also your development base, why this is important is because, in my opinion, Google is able to get away from platforms that could potentially affect them and that they can have more control over. Now, this is an open source project, and let me pause this real quick. So you could go to GitHub right here. This is fuchsia.googlesource.com. This is the main place. You could actually compile it, and I think it only works on Pixelbooks right now, but these are all the different components of the Fuscia OS. And what's really important here, at least from a geeky standpoint, is that the kernel, it's not based upon the Linux kernel, which is a huge thing. It's based upon this new microkernel, or not new, but at least new to the majority of people. It's called Zircon. It's its own new microkernel that is not based upon Linux at all. And so why this is important is, well, it gets away from Linux, okay? And even though we love Linux, and it's also the most used kernel in the entire world, it still has potential issues when it comes to, I would say, control, okay? And I really think that's what it's about. Even though it is open source, it doesn't matter if it's open source or proprietary. Whenever you use these OSs, you are inside their ecosystem. And the more control they can have over these components, the better. And it's also something different, okay? And good morning, Zane Wolf Alpha, and good morning, Shatter. Thanks for joining, as always. And Zane Wolf looks like they are new, so thank you for joining the conversation. And so by Google doing this, they are getting away from Linux. They are going to have more control for sure. And if this does become as popular as Google hopes it does, it's different. It also sets them apart from other different operating systems. Even though these are mostly all open source components, they are still different, okay? And it also gets away from, and Google and Oracle had this issue years ago where Oracle was basically trying to sue Google over Java or parts of Java, and they were basically trying to get licensing payouts for components of Java, and that is going to be a ton of money. And Microsoft has already successfully got licensing fees for manufacturers using Android, such as Samsung. And so by Google doing this, I'm pretty sure it's also a strategic play as well, because then if they're doing that, they're not using the Dalvik virtual machine, which actually handles all the Java components. So it's the virtual machine that does that. So by getting away from that, Google also gets away from legal issues for the most part. And obviously, Google has a lot of lawyers and they have a ton of money. So I'm pretty sure these other companies, they're going to try to sue them anyway. But it's going to be harder if you're using things that are under more control of Google. Okay, like I said, even though they are open source, Google didn't choose these components by accident. They chose it by design. And right now, when I'm looking at it, it just looks a lot like Chrome OS, in my opinion. And obviously, they're still using their material design. And if you notice throughout all of Google's products, they all have this new type of material design anyway. And so it keeps a consistent look across all of Google's products and services. And so the SDK, it is going to be using Flutter. And so this is cross-compatible. It'll work on both Android and iOS. And also the whole graphics portion, it will be using Vulkan, okay, among many other things. So that's great. And yeah, it's a Vulkan-based graphics stack. Support new APIs. Man, so my thoughts on this is it's going to be really cool, and it'll also pave the way for other OS providers to do something similar because of the fact that it is going to be open source, very much like Android. So other people can use this OS. And so if this is as popular as Google hopes it will become, then it'll be very similar to Android, where you're going to take over a lot of different platforms. Because with Android, it's on so many devices. It's the most used mobile operating system in the world, and I'm pretty sure Google wants to do the same thing here. Now, let's go back to the control thing, because this is important. As far as I know, just from reading this, how it's installed is, once you download it, there is a bootloader called ZBoot that you would put on your USB stick, okay? But it's different from other ways that we would install in OS, where we have the whole distro, we put it on there, and then we just run it, and then we install the OS. Here, as far as I understand, once you load this bootloader, it actually have to connect to a network, and it says right here, host machine, you compile Fuscia and send the system files over the network to a machine currently running ZBoot. So 1.1 gigs of files downloaded, the system boots up, and eventually you'll be looking at a lock screen. And so I'm not entirely sure what that means, but what it means in general to me is that you're going to have to talk to Google somehow. You have to be on a network in order to authorize you to actually use this open source operating system. And it goes back to what I just said earlier, control. Okay, more control. Even if it's free and open source, you're going to have to get permission from Google or wherever this network is, okay? I'm not really digging that part of it, and all manufacturers have been trying to go this route anyway. You know, you remember with Microsoft's Xbox, whenever they released that, they wanted you to have an always-on internet connection, and even stuff like Steam, you at least have to approve your device to use it. And so this is where we're all heading. You know, these providers want you to be online with them all the time, so then they could monitor and track. And I get it, I understand it, not only from the whole data point of view, data collection point of view, but it's really control. Okay, they're able to control their platforms. They're able to also, in terms of you know, keeping track of bad things happening. You know, that's why Chrome OS was so important, is because since you are basically using a browser all the time, Google has more control over security and stuff like that on the back end and administration rights. Okay, so you don't have to worry a lot about making sure your operating system is the most updated version and the most quote-unquote secure version, right? And so there's a lot of, once again, a lot of control there, and every single company wants this. This is where they're all heading. Okay, and so Zane Wolf is saying, oh, Zane Wolf is saying, I'm not new. I know your channel about, oh, thanks, Zane. Yeah, it's just that you're new to the discussion. So it's like I really see the same people on there. And so maybe you have been on here before, but I do want to thank you regardless for being a watcher and joining the discussion today. So Shatter is saying a fact that Fuscia OS over a year-old project, probably doing this project to avoid Linux license over Android. Yeah, that's exactly what I talked about earlier, Shatter. Fuscia's OS logo naming from the most popular flower from Japan is called Fuscia. That is sweet. I know this flower, yes. Shatter says, and the OS theme goes with the flower color. Yep. Chrome OS based on Gen 2. And I'm really interested to see how far they go with this, or they will. They're not going to stop, you know. And then I'm also curious to see how Apple and Microsoft respond, because obviously they've been developing their own for a while, and we're going to see more and more of these truly one OS to rule them all, you know. So every single provider, it's going to be one OS to rule them all, and then in the future it's going to be one OS all connected to the internet to rule them all as well. Okay, but the only one hopefully that doesn't do that, where you have to be online all the time, is Linux. And so I think Linux could definitely benefit from this, and they're, like I said, they're already heading that way anyway. So we will in the future get one OS or one version of the OS to rule them all for our distros as well. So I can't wait for the day where, you know, we have one OS that really truly does work well on any device, and that so then you don't have to download different versions of it. And so that'd be really nice, you know. And so, hey VM, Villain Millennium, thank you for joining. So Chrome OS equals SHOS. Well, that's why I'm talking about the Linux all-in-one OS. I can't wait for those. And so Condre OS greater than Google OS. Shout to say it's cloud-based OS, so it's not that type of OS as you said earlier at all. VM. Oh, so yeah, very interesting. And at this point, I am glad that the majority of all the components are open source. And so, you know, obviously the Linux community could use this as well. But it'll be really exciting to see where this goes, because I think for a while now, I think the whole operating system landscape, at least outside of Linux, because, you know, us being Linux users, there's always something new in the whole Linux space when it comes to operating system. But when it comes to the, you know, the big general mass operating systems, Windows, Mac OS, Android, you know, iOS, there really hasn't been much in the way of things that are exciting, things that are really new. And so something like Fuscia, it's really gonna draw a lot more attention and create more excitement, which I think the mass operating system users need, you know, which is exciting. Okay, but like I said, Linux users, we're used to this. Every day there's something new. And so yeah, this would be really cool. There's like 2 cool things already, and then wow. And so great. So let's see how far this goes. Once they have a version available that's easy to put on any device, hopefully I'll be able to try it. I do want to try this. Okay, and since it is, let's be real, since it is mainly done by Google, supported by Google, they have a lot more money into it. and so you know, things will typically work better, and they'll have a community to support it. Okay, so they could actually move further faster because they have so much money. And so yeah, I'll be excited to see how that works and see how it'll work. I don't know how they're gonna make it work in the end, but obviously they want to make this Android work with Android apps, okay, the current Android ecosystem. Okay, so then that way, whenever this becomes mature enough, and then people can transition over to Fuscia OS without having to worry about compatibility, because people don't care about the technical stuff underneath. Okay, and so it'll probably look just like people are familiar with right now, obviously with the material theme, but it's everything that happens underneath. That'll be really interesting. So VM is saying, I hate Canonical, but I would rather use Ubuntu over something on Google, Facebook, or whatever of them produce. VM, yes, I do agree with you. That's what I would prefer, and obviously I do because I use Linux. But yeah, I would rather prefer a Linux vendor come to market faster with their all-in-one solution. And I really have a feeling that Ubuntu is gonna get back into that space of that Ubuntu One OS. You know, I really think the timing's right, and Ubuntu is the best funded distro provider out of all of them. You know, so I really do hope Ubuntu gets back into this. Okay, so VM, at least I would be able to know what I control my privacy. Exactly, VM. And you know, we know this, not only your privacy, but everything else. You know, I want my operating system to work like how I want it. And obviously with Fuscia OS, very much like how Android is now, you're losing more and more control with every iteration. Okay, because you are inside Google's ecosystem. Even if the components are open source, it doesn't matter. You're inside their ecosystem. And so to see, so shots are saying within 2020 or 2025, OS doesn't matter. You won't be able to own a personal copy of OS software and games because of cloud service. Yep, absolutely, Shatter. My same feelings. I did do a few episodes on that where, you know, you don't control your OS anymore, and operating systems will not matter in the future because everything's going to be online anyway. And even if it runs on the Linux kernel, it doesn't matter. You know, it's about the whole entire ecosystem. So kind of sucks, you know. I mean, yeah, I try to be optimistic about us having more freedom with your operating system in the future. But the more and more I think about it, the more and more that's probably not going to be the case, because in the future, it's all going to be even more about the ecosystem. So regardless of what you're using underneath it, you're going to be in one of these ecosystems, unfortunately. And so Zane Wolf Alpha say, I don't trust Google. Yeah, a lot of people don't. But, you know, Zane Wolf, like, all of these companies do the same thing underneath, and they all have to anyway. That's just the reality. They have to collect your data. They have to get as much information as possible. So that's just the nature of everything. You have to collect it. But you know, it's the way in which you handle it. And I can understand why people do not have a lot of trust in Google in that case, because they do a lot with your data. And so does Facebook, and so does Microsoft, and so does Apple. But normally, when people think about privacy concerns, they normally think of Google and Facebook. I personally think Facebook is a little worse than Google, but doesn't matter in the end, because we don't really control that. And so VM, guess you don't use intranets at all? Yeah, probably not. So Zane Wolf Alpha say Google knows everything that you serve Google, and they know where you are. Yeah, yep. But even if you're not using a Google browser, there's so many ways that you could track people's user habits. You know that I do digital marketing, and so if you do web development, you know exactly as well how to track people. But simple things such as cookies, that's always been around. But then the cookies are used by companies like Amazon, and then they have pixels like on Facebook. You can use Facebook pixels to follow people around. And then for Google, you can use things like the Google Tag Manager, you know. And so there's lots of ways to track people's buying habits and stuff. So you don't, I mean, you just end up on a website or even on YouTube. I mean, I tell you right now that it's easy to track people's habits through Google, because anytime you watch a video, they're collecting really important data for them. And on Facebook, they're collecting tons of data. And so let me see. So shout to say Google just dropped their personal indoor Ubuntu based on Ubuntu for Debian as G Linux. Wow. Nice. VM, that's interesting because I don't use Google services, excluding YouTube with the trash account. Yeah, VM, they have really powerful algorithms, VM, even if you don't use your account, even if you're using the latest and greatest privacy stuff underneath, you are masking your IP, all that stuff. It's practically impossible for you to mask every single thing that you do. And obviously, it is important for you to understand those things. I think it's definitely an advantage. You're going to be able to save your privacy more, but at the same time, unless you want to spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's practically impossible. Even if you surf on the dark web using an onion-based browser like Tor, you're on VPNs, there's always a way to track you or find out more information. Okay, and a lot of these services that we use every single day, you have to use them anyway because you have to. Okay, I mean, you could try to de-Google or de-Facebook your life, but it's really hard to de-Google all the other services and products that you use. Okay, even if you don't use the internet a lot, you're using your TV, yeah, they're tracking you. Okay, I mean, a lot of these TVs use WebOS or they use Android, or they use Samsung's OS. A lot of these smart TVs, and so yeah, or smart devices. Anyway, we talk about that quite a bit. So Zane Wolf Alpha Ubuntu VM says, besides some of its living place where online isn't a certain thing, just saying. That's true. You're right now on YouTube, Zane Wolf Alpha. So how's that? When you're online, there's nothing about P. I don't use Facebook every time. Yeah, Zane Wolf. I don't use Facebook personally. I do have a Facebook page for Geek Outdoors. So I primarily use Facebook for business stuff. Obviously I have my Facebook page, but really I use it for Facebook ads. Okay. And so that's how come, like, when I talk about data collection, I could tell you that they do have a lot of data because I look at that every day whenever we are doing digital marketing. And so that's for SEM, PPC, SEO. They have so much data. It's absolutely insane. It's kind of scary, as a matter of fact. So Shatter, it's online internet even if you're offline. Yep, even if you're offline. I don't watch TV. Yep, I don't have a TV as well, Zane Wolf. I don't own a smart TV. That kind of sucks. We can't enjoy things anymore. VM, I still use an analog TV. I love analog TVs. Okay, so let's get to the last piece of good news, because I think all of this news is really cool this week. And here's another really cool piece of news. And this would be really relevant to, I think, VM and Shatter. I think both of them are, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure VM, you're from Spain. And so the city of Barcelona is dumping Windows in favor of Linux. Wow. Okay, so I have done a video on this before where I talk about Linux in other countries. I think I started with Linux in Europe, and I did definitely get people from Europe who gave me a lot more information on how Linux is used in other countries. Okay, obviously India, China, every single country, South America, they have different user habits, obviously. So primarily in North America, US, Canada, it's pretty much just Microsoft Windows or Apple, okay, for the majority of people. So Linux is not, most people don't even know about it, okay, in terms of a desktop operating system. But then when you go to other countries, specifically like European countries, more people actually use Linux as a desktop operating system. Now, even though it's not a huge amount, just the fact that this piece of news right here, you will probably never hear that type of news in the US. Probably never, okay? And so, so the city of Barcelona, Spain, announced its plan to dump Windows and Office in favor of open source alternative. Linux will be its operating system of choice as officials attempt to save money by dodging the subscription fees associated with Microsoft's offerings. And this is the main reason why any of these countries, why they would choose Linux, okay? It's because of, first, money, that's definitely, but secondly, it goes back to the whole control thing that I talked about earlier. Okay, so if you look at China, China's main OS, I think it's Red OS, or maybe that was in North Korea, I can't remember. But China's main OS, it is Linux based. Okay, their countrywide OS that they use. So that is to keep more control, keep more things in domestically. And since it is Linux, it is open source, the countries that use this, they also have more control on how they can provide this operating system to the people in their countries, okay, without getting a lot of control over companies like Microsoft and Apple, okay? So cost is important, definitely, but I really think it's more about the control factor, okay? They don't want to be dependent upon these other companies, and especially if you are a country like, let's just say China or India, and you are using a United States-based operating system, you know, that kind of takes away from your domestic providers as well. Okay, so I really think it's a lot more about the control aspect than it is about the money aspect. And so isn't that a big deal for me from the other side of Spain? We've been using and developing Linux for ages. Yep. And I think some users out of the Eastern Europe, they've mentioned that as well. Linux use that in school. And in government associations and government departments. Let me read some more about this, because other countries and other like Germany in Munich, I'm going to talk about that further, because although I'm very happy about this, there's also some realities about this as well. So let me see. So it's a pilot scheme. City employees have been outfitted with workstations around Ubuntu. They come pre-installed with Firefox. Okay, they're going to be choosing open source alternatives to Microsoft programs. So here's where the article, this is on Digital Trends, by the way, where they talk about how other countries have tried this and how they end up going back to Microsoft Windows. Okay, 2003, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Munich, Germany, they did announce their own plans to switch to Linux, but eventually they went back to Windows, or are going back to Windows, because of widespread complaints from staff regarding reduced efficiency and productivity. And Vienna made a similar transition in 2005, but they also returned back to Microsoft in 2009. And so the main reason on that is because this, you know, this is where the whole ecosystem thing becomes so important. Because if you have a very powerful ecosystem where you are dependent upon their products and services they provide, whenever you try to get out of that ecosystem, it's going to be really hard for you to continue doing what you're doing. Okay, and so that is a smart strategic plan by all these companies, and that's the main reason why they have to go back to Microsoft, because a lot of the products and services that they have now, they won't work on Linux. Okay, and so that's a big problem. Okay, and it's beyond just like stuff like Photoshop and stuff like that. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of pieces of software that are dependent upon Microsoft's operating system, and to a lesser degree, Apple's desktop operating system. Okay, so that's the reality. And so, but the article does point out one thing, and I do agree, a lot of things have changed since 2003 and 2005, and the main reason is we are an internet-based, browser-based society now. Okay, so the operating system, you know, we just talked about earlier, it doesn't really matter. You just need a browser or something like that. And a lot of services are going web-based anyway, and applications. And so, yeah, so it might not matter as much now. I think for Barcelona to do this, I think they have a better chance of it succeeding now, because even like for us Linux users, as long as you have a browser, you know, for the majority of people, most of your work is done on a browser anyway. And so Linux, you know, has its own, you know, we have access to all the major browsers. And obviously Google knew about this, they're smart about it, and all these other companies, that's why they came out with Chrome OS, you know. So most people are going to do their computing through their browser, okay, not through the desktop operating system. You know, as long as they have a browser, the majority of people can use their computer day to day. Okay, and now that everything is going cloud-based anyway, you don't even need a lot of storage. Okay, so let's go back here. Shacher saying Tele TV is not my type of home appliance. It's time-wasting satanic box good for nothing. VMs, do you read books? I think you're asking Shacher that. Yeah, people also said that about computers. Yes, I read. Zane Will for Alpha. Paper book, not on screen. Yeah, I love books. You've probably seen a recent episode I talk about one of my favorite books. I hope books will never go away. Maybe physically, they might, because the cost to produce it. You know, I love physical books, so I hope they stay around as long as possible. Zane Wolf says, let me see. Said books. VM is saying said books the only thing that could grant you something useful. Zane Wolf is saying I like reading. I don't know why. Well, Zane Wolf, my opinion, you love reading because you're a geek and you love learning. Because I'm a geek, I love books. A lot of geeks love books because we love to learn. And so, and I think with books, it's still to me one of the most powerful ways to learn. Obviously, if I had a choice between video and books, I would probably choose video because it's got so many other components. I could learn faster. But I really feel in terms of long-term thinking and brain development, I would definitely prefer books, period. Because when you are reading a book, especially a physical book, you have no distractions, you know, and then your mind has to do a lot of the visualization, the imagination. So you're using more of your brain, in my opinion, whenever you are reading a physical book. Okay, so I think books, to me, in the end, they are the most powerful ways to learn. Although when it comes to learning quicker, I prefer video. Okay. VM says, so you rather still polluting, killing forests? Yeah, I'm sorry, VM. Yeah, I get it. But I really do love physical books. The internet killed the earth, then book. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that, Zane, because it requires a lot of resources to actually run stuff on the internet. Okay. Internet pollute more than book. Okay. Let me see. VM saying, okay, machines. Okay. Let's keep going. Pollution. Install virtual. Okay. Capser Bala, thank you for joining. Install VirtualBox and Windows XP ISO. Yes, Capture. That's so funny you mentioned that. Let me show you. That's so funny you mentioned that because guess what? I actually have right here. I have Windows XP on a VirtualBox. That's really funny that you mentioned that. And Windows XP, by the way, one of my favorite operating systems. And so this is my actual operating system that I had back in what year is this? Let me see. This is when I was a kid. When I was a, let me see. It's so funny that I have this. Okay, my computer. I don't even remember how to use this. Okay, view system information. Let me see what version. Okay, so this is Windows XP 2000. It's using Microsoft XP Professional 2002 Service Pack 2. Yeah, so this is a long time ago. Yeah, so this is actually my operating system back then. I actually made copies of it, and I was using Linux at the time, and so I still wanted access to Windows. But before, I didn't have Windows in a virtual machine, Windows XP back then, because the computers and technology wasn't as powerful to do it. And so this Windows XP was actually the operating system that I had on a separate Windows machine. I think it was on a separate hard drive back then. Okay, so Zane Wolf is saying, so can we just use Rock for book? And check this out. This is so funny. So Windows XP, even though this is my version back since 2002, keep your computer up to date. You know, it still can actually talk to Windows or whatever services still right now. And this is like, yeah, 16 years ago. That's really crazy. And even like my antivirus and stuff, it still tries to update. It's kind of ridiculous. And so this is so funny. I really did love Windows XP, but it's funny for me to go back to it now. Check this out. It's Open Office. Open Office before Oracle pretty much destroyed Open Office, and now we have LibreOffice. Let me see how old this is. Updates are available for extensions. Yeah, I don't think those work. About OpenOffice.org. So this is build, whatever, old build, 2000 to 2009 Sun Microsystems. Yeah, so anyway, I don't know how I got into that. So it's kind of really fun to go back in time and still have it here. And it works. Everything works except for the internet. It doesn't work, but everything else works, which is really cool. Okay, so let me see. Scripture style rock-based books. Okay, let's go back to the news real quick. All right. Okay, so I'm watching on my computer, but commenting on my phone. Capser Bala says in US it's okay, in France it's 0. Okay. Zane Wolf says I'm in France. You know, that's funny, Zane Wolf. If you are in France, whenever I did that that video a while back where it talked about Linux in Europe, I think in some parts of France, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, that the police department does use Ubuntu as their operating system, that they on their computers that they bring with them in their cars. So correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And so I think in a lot of European countries, and you know, like VM was saying, Linux in European countries is really nothing new. They have them in schools. They use them in government institutions as well. And so I'm really interested to see how that works because, as I said earlier, there's so many services, products, and programs that depend on the Windows operating system. So I'm really curious how countries actually do that, and then they're still able to work with the rest of the world. I mean, obviously, you could do a lot of things without Windows, but Windows is just required in so many places, you know, for the products and services and programs that they have. Okay. Let me see. VM say look at 6UG. I'm not sure what that is. Zane Wolf Alpha says first OS that I used was XP. Yeah. Capture Bala says I'm using on VirtualBox Service Pack 3. Sweet. Oh, so you have Windows XP on yours as well. That's funny, Capture. Shatter saying Windows 3.0 plus Windows 95. Yeah, Shatter. This is so fun. I really, that's why I enjoy having all of you on here, because all of you are geeks and you're doing so many cool things, very similar to what I'm doing as well in some cases, which is really fun. And so what were you saying, Shatter? You were saying Windows 3.0. Well, let me see. There it is. I got a DOSBox right here. There's my DOSBox right there. So I still have a DOS right here. I'm not sure what version of DOS it's actually running on or it's based upon, but probably the last recent version. So there's DOS right there, and I could, you know, obviously mount my partition or my current home directory to make it a C directory, and so that's really funny. So okay, so Zaywolf Alpha said I was born the same year that XP. Wow, Zaywolf, you're young. Shatter saying Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8.0. Yeah, Shatter, my favorites are Windows XP. That's still in my favorite. Okay, I think the most revolutionary version, at least from my age group, for Windows to me was Windows 95. That really changed the landscape, because if I remember correctly, Windows 95 was when we truly went from a DOS to a more GUI based operating system. Okay, that's what I remember. Okay, so yeah, let me see. And I did really enjoy Windows 7. I think Windows XP is my favorite, and Windows XP is my second favorite, and the rest of them, I know I do really hate it. Windows Vista, Windows 8. So Capture say Windows 1.0 is most supported Microsoft OS 1985 to 2001. Yeah, long term support. Shatter saying Windows 10 is pretty KDE Plasma, copy paste to me. Yeah, I love KDE. I really do. I just wish it was faster. VM is saying well said that Windows 10 would be the last becoming a rolling release. Yes, it's definitely becoming a rolling release. Also, I have Windows 10 on here as well. So I have pretty much most of the operating systems except for Apple's Mac OS, but I do use Apple's Mac OS, not on my main computer here, but my main computer is definitely Linux. So let's see, let's get in there. It's Windows 10. It's really awesome to see that. So I got Windows XP here, Windows 10. I also have another Linux Mint, my own distro, and obviously my main distro. And I also I haven't installed it yet. I have to reinstall it. What is that secure one? I can't remember. Escapes my mind right now, but I have another Linux distro that I'm learning right now as well. And wow, I can't remember the name of that distro. Let me see. What is it called? Let me see. Penetration disk. I can't believe I can't remember this. Penetration testing. Testing Linux. It's crazy that I can't remember this name. So Kali Linux, yes. I actually have I'm just starting to learn how to use Kali Linux as well. So I'm gonna have to reinstall that. So that's so funny that Windows is still here. Check that out. Here's the Windows XP tour. I'm gonna leave that running for Windows XP. Just some good old memories. Let me see. It's Ubuntu. It's on Wikipedia. Okay, Firefox versus Chromium. After all copy and paste of Linux feature, wait for 2020 of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Yes. Let me see. It's Ubuntu. Capture Baller saying run a Doom. Yeah, I don't have that downloaded, Capture, but I know what you're saying. I could run a Doom on DOSBox, and I have run a few games. It's really cool. Check that out. Windows XP, safe and easy for personal computing. That's so funny. Unlock the world of digital. Wow. Optimized for games and DVDs. DVDs were pretty new back then. It's really funny. So yeah. So let me see. I still like 98 XP7. Yeah, 98 was good. 95 brought as the best meme in the world, the blue screen of death. Yeah, VM, PSOD for sure. LOL. Let me see. Let me see. I speak so many languages for my age. How many languages do you speak, Zangwolf Alpha? That's one thing that I noticed when I did travel to other countries. Like I said, I have traveled to Spain, to Madrid. Maybe in the future, I might show you pictures of when I traveled to these countries. Okay, and so Madrid was really beautiful. I really enjoyed it. I was hoping to go to Barcelona, and then I was going to go to Italy after that, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. So yeah, beautiful, beautiful place. If you've not been to Madrid, Spain, and especially I do want to go to Barcelona. I heard Barcelona is even more beautiful than Madrid is. Okay, go check it out. It's a beautiful country. Let me see. VM saying Windows 7 was the best they ever produced. Yeah, Windows 7 was awesome. I still think Windows XP, in my opinion, was the best for me, but Windows 7 is number 2. Saying Wolf more than 10. Hey, Gaza, thank you for joining. Hi, all. I'm late again. No problem, Gaza. No problem. Shatter saying, my humble friend agree with y'all, VM. Capture Bala says, you have a Polish channel and have 2 videos made using Windows Movie Maker for 2001. Oh, man, that's so funny. I still wish they had Windows Movie Maker for Windows 10. That just really made me angry that they got rid of that, you know? I mean, I love Windows Movie Maker, and now a lot of people don't have a free alternative. And I know there are other free movie makers on Windows, but, man, that really sucked that they did that. Zangwolf says, I'm the second in school. I don't learn my lesson in class. Yeah, Zangwolf, school will give you a certain type of education. It'll give you a academic systemized education, but thanks to the internet, we have a lot more ways to learn. And in my opinion, the internet, especially YouTube, is the best place to learn. I mean, and school cannot keep up. Academic school cannot keep up with the internet. So that's a great thing. Shatter says you're Gen Z. VM saying good grades doesn't mean being smart, so don't worry about that. Definitely, VM, you're 1000% correct. School, just think about it this way. From somebody who's, been around the block, I've got the college degrees and everything, but just think of school as one way of learning. It's just one tool that you have. I recommend, you're a geek, you're learning anyway, learn from other areas, and in my opinion, once again, the best place to learn is on the internet. School will not teach you how to really work on the internet for the real world. What school will teach you, and this is my opinion, it'll teach you to work in the system. It'll teach you to work for a business. It'll teach you to work for governments. It'll teach you to be a good employee. That's the primary purpose of school, because if anybody who's gone through college and university, you really don't use a lot of what you learn in school. It's just a way for you to get that degree, so you have, I guess, an opportunity to go work in the real world. But in the real world, once you get in, you're going to learn new stuff anyway. Whatever you learn in school, it's not really applicable to the real world. And in the real world, you have to learn new things anyway all the time. Okay? And so that's why I recommend, if you want to learn, stick to the internet. Stick to the internet, because companies, businesses, they want people in the end with real world skills and experience. And since the internet moves so fast, the best place to get those skills and experience is what you're doing right now. Learn on the internet and actually do it. Okay, that's my opinion. Okay, Zane Wolf, this effing autocorrection, yeah. VM says Kali pukes. Kali's just Debbie known with some pen test software. I really like Shatter. I really like Kali. It's got a lot of powerful features, and a lot of it I don't have to worry about. It's already pre-built for it. So, and I want to learn more about security and penetration testing, stuff like that. So, Capture Bala saying, why Microsoft missed number 9? Moment you hide number 8. On Windows 9, 8, Windows 9, Windows 9 confirmed. Yeah, what is it? Windows 8.1. VM saying 1,000 kinds that watch Mr. Robot. Yep. Madrid is shite. Well, VM, I really like Madrid. You live there, and so I thought it was really beautiful. I went to the center square when I was in Madrid. And if you've been to Madrid, there's like this center square place where everybody meet. You know, there's birds there. There's lots of restaurants. I was really impressed by the amount of food, and there's also VM. I don't know what the name of it in I can't remember in English. There's the really thinly sliced pork. It's a lot of people love eating it, but I can't remember the name because when we went to go eat with Iberia, which is the airline that I went to go work with. Let me see. I think it's Iberia Airlines. We went to lunch for like 2 hours, and so I think that's common in Spain where people eat really late. So Iberia Airlines. So this is the company that I went to go work with whenever I was in Madrid. And so we actually worked with the company in Iberia, the actual airline. And so that's where I went. And so it was really cool. I enjoyed that. And then I also went to Germany as well. When I was in Germany, I was in Frankfurt. And the company that I worked with at the time was Lufthansa. Lufthansa is pretty much the largest, I think they're still the largest, or maybe the top 5 largest cargo management company in the entire world. So that was really cool. I wasn't a big fan of Frankfurt. I actually wanted to go to Hamburg and Munich on a train, so that would have been cool. So let me say what black screen of death, also known as Linux BSD or kernel panic. Yep, that happens as well. Gen Zs are good. Not most of the millennials like us. Oh, yeah, I don't know much about Gen Z. Shatter says school is one way for learning how to get a good job for a living. Yes, it is, Shatter. It's a tool, you know. You can use it when you need it, but if you don't need it, use other means, internet. Copter saying install memory cleaner or other no-killing hard drive. Okay, VM is saying where I was high school, 7 of us got said they were genius and only 1 of us did well as grades. A Chinese girl. Yeah, VM, like I said, you know, like school, it's made for certain things, okay, but I mean, pretty much all the stuff that I've learned outside of school, it's been on the internet, you know, and that's what I could really apply. I could apply stuff on the internet, okay? These are real world skills, okay? Learn stuff on the internet. Zane Wolf will say I'm Asian. Oh, that's cool. Zane Wolf, I'm Asian too. Zane Wolf say, bye, I have something to do. Okay, thank you for joining, Zane Wolf. VM saying paired or backbox is better. VM says I don't live in Madrid, I live in Galicia. Yeah, I think you mentioned that. Look at pictures of the place. Oh, Galicia. Okay, I don't never heard of that, VM, until you told me about it. Let me see, Galicia. And we have people from the Ukraine as well. Okay, let's look at images. Wow. Wow, VM, is that really how it looks like? Right? Where is Galicia? Is that near Madrid? I mean, is that near Barcelona? Let me see. Yeah, I would like to go back to Europe. I would really like to take a trip and just see more of it. Let me see. Where's the map? I don't want a map. I want maps. Okay. Oh, it's in northern. It's in northern Spain. Right? Where is it? Yep. Is that it? Oh, so maybe that's a section. Okay. Cool. Cool, man. So I in the future I would definitely be going back to Europe. So maybe you'll see me on some future episodes. I'll also be going to for sure I'll be going to Southeast Asia, back to Southeast Asia as well, and some of the Asian islands. So yeah, one of my cool. A friend that I know, they're actually in not Romania, in Bulgaria right now, which is really cool. So yeah, Iberia, yes. Okay, yeah, that's where cool. You guys gotta see Spain. Yep. Hace la vista y luego. So I guess you're leaving too. So I will. It's been an hour, so I'm gonna wrap up this episode. But I really did enjoy our conversation today, as always. So today we talked about Nintendo Labs, which all of the news today was really cool. The Google Fuscia OS and Barcelona dumping Windows for Linux. And the coolest thing that I think we got out of it today is we talked a lot about geeky stuff. We looked at Windows XP, and we talked a little bit more about the cool countries that we live in, because there's people all around the world. That's why I love YouTube and the internet so much, is because we get to, interact and talk to people in different parts of the world without actually having to be there. And so that is it for this particular live episode. So before I go here, let me thank everyone who is actually in the discussion. First, I want to thank George Trapas, Samuel S., Zane Wolf Alpha, Shatter, Villain Millennium or VM, and let me see if there's anybody else, and of course Gaza Imp. I just want to thank all of you as always, and Capture Bala, thank you so much for joining. I do definitely want to thank you and appreciate you joining the discussion, adding a lot to the geeky fun that we have every week. And also for anybody who's watching right now, I say this every single episode and I really mean it, that time is our most valuable asset. And so for you to spend time here, I really appreciate it. And for anybody who's actually watching it later, I do want to thank you there as well. So if you had any thoughts on this, be sure to leave it in the comments area below. And as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to subscribe. And if you did want to support my channel further, you could do that at patreon.com/geekoutdoors. Thanks all of you for watching. We'll see you on another live